So, request you all to kindly settle down. We're starting with our next session. Uh, we begin with our next session, session 6, which is on sustainable food future, which is also one of the priority areas of this year's presidency. To chair this session, we have with us Dr. Ashok Gulati, who is Infosys Chair Professor for Agriculture at ICRIER. Among the panelists, we have Ritika Khera, who is an Associate Professor of Economics in the Public System Group's Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Bustanul Arifin, who's a professor at University of Lampung, Indonesia, and Fred Bedore, who is a senior director at Sustainability, Walmart. Over to the chair. Thank you.
I think there are quite a few people still there. So we need to have a cowbell to get them back. You need a bigger cowbell. Well, let's start without losing much time. Welcome back to the session. This particular session is on the future of food, literally what the production systems are and how best we can make it sustainable. The issue is more on the sustainability question. We had seen yesterday, I think, some discussion on climate change, but there is a bigger issue that we have on the table. And the issue that I would like to spend 3 to 5 minutes on, we are looking at a growth of population. Today, the world is about 7.6 billion people, and by 2050, there is going to be about 9.7, 9.8 billion people on this planet. Now, the pressure on food, because much of the growth is coming from Africa, Asia. The developed countries have stabilized more or less their population, but the growth in Africa and Asia is still continuing, and therefore the demand for food is going to go up. Earlier there were forecasts that you would need 70% more food by 2050 compared to the base year of 2005-06. Lately that has been revised downwards a little bit. It's still about 60% more food that we will be needing. These are the estimates coming from FAO and the population projections from UN 2017, the latest. India and China are going to be the two biggest nations on this planet. By 2024, we are going to surpass the population of China. We are today 1.35 billion, and by 2024, India will be the most populous nation on this planet. NSS surveys, latest 2011, still with us, average Indian household was spending about 45% of its expenditure on food. And if our growth rates continue to grow at overall GDP 7 to 8% per annum for the next 10, 15 years, then the pressure on food demand is going to be tremendous. Now, from where it is going to be produced, what will happen to the water table? We have seen in certain areas in India, Punjab in particular, Punjab, Haryana belt, water table is going down by 1 meter, 70 centimeters every year, literally. That is a very alarming situation. There are hotspots, 3 hotspots in the world, one in India, one in China, one in California. So how are we going to manage with literally per capita lesser and lesser availability of water to produce more of food? We will have to change our systems of production. And whatever we are producing, today 1/3 of that globally is lost. It is wasted. It never reaches the stomachs of the people. So you are producing with so much of energy and water and all that, and soils are getting degraded because of excessive utilization of chemical fertilizers, imbalance in the NPK ratios, and so on and so forth. So there are challenges, first how to produce most efficiently, but also managing the value chain. In developed countries, the wastages are more at the consumer end. But in developing countries like us, the wastages are more at the farmer end as it goes towards, because we don't have infrastructure to make things move. So value chains have to be modernized with a view how to use less of resources to give us a better, more, and safe food. That is what is the need of the hour. We have 3 great speakers with us, fortunate. Bostan is from Indonesia. I know him for the last perhaps 20 years plus. Since my old incarnation in ICRIER, we used to work in Indonesia quite a bit, and there is a lot to learn from Indonesia. I saw that every inch of land, how it can be used, and how within 24 hours from harvesting to the retailer's shop in Jakarta, it can be brought in. And those models, I was extremely impressed. We did a lot of studies, and a smallholder economy, how it can produce very effectively, high productivity, but also how linking with the market, big value chains, how it can be brought, and all bar-coded. So we know in Jakarta when you're buying from which group it has come. That is traceability. In India, God knows what we are consuming and what we are doing. There was a survey lately on milk that 68% of our milk is unfit for consumption. So what are we taking? So that's where I think Bostan is going to give us a flavor of what the global situation is and what the situation in Indonesia is, and how best we can produce more, lesser resource cost, and in a more sustainable manner. I think that's what we expect from him. We have Fred with us, and he is coming from the Walmart side, the big value chains, global value chains. And Walmart has entered into a big way into food sector too. And over time, how best to make you available safe food, better quality at a reasonable price, affordability. Those are the issues we would expect, and global experience, especially in the developing world, would be very useful for us. And lastly, we have our homegrown, very versatile person on the table, Ritika Khera. She has been working a lot onto the distribution value chain, particularly the public distribution and the big debate on food, whether how to introduce DBT in public distribution system, what the leakages are and all that. I have requested her specifically, please bring in the production side also on the sustainability question, and then also bring in your issues of fixing the distribution lines, if I'm right in saying that. So with these introductory remarks, we look forward to our speakers, some wisdom. Bostan, floor is yours for 20 minutes, and over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ashok. we know each other when we were young. Now we're getting gray hair and so on because of food security. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the invitation, Dr. Katuria. I enjoyed the last 2 days. I'd like to share the thing that we've been working on this theme, Sustainable Food Future. I put a subtitle, Food Security in the Midst of Environmental Risk. Probably if we have time, I hope I can manage the time anyway. I have 5 main themes I'd like to share with you. The first 2 is really about the issues. If you are not familiar with G20 communique, G20 statement and so on, then I would like to bring the issues of FSN in general. G20 put forward specifically about food security and nutrition framework. Nutrition is a good emphasis recently. I believe you have read Global Nutrition Report. It's a good report and you should start with. Then some little bit stories from Indonesia, how we deal with these issues. It's not solved yet, but we try to move forward. Then I try to bring the bridge in G20s, because we are diverse. If you see over there, is really, according to the website, is the group. That probably a subgroup that we could work together in terms of focus. Recently, you remember that G20 have added development issues, including the food and climate change and so on. Then what can we do after this, okay? Oops. Ladies and gentlemen, the introduction already made by Professor Gulati earlier. The SFS is actually a statement, what do you call, the targets, objectives that they put together. All people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food for to achieve a healthy life, which is also a universal objective of food security in general. If we go further into the nutrition side about hunger, the thing that we are very difficult is hidden hunger. Hidden hunger, you do not have any feeling that you have hunger, but actually those who are in between or around the poverty line, which is very tricky to deal with. This is the statement. A sustainable, integrated, and inclusive future food systems require concerted efforts, collaboration among governments, international organizations, farmers, community service, and of course the private sectors in general. We are lucky that Fred is here. We can listen the view from private sector, big private sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 9 objectives, if you call it, strategies: integrated, inclusive, and equitable development. Oh my God! All good words is in the website. You can see about that. But basically, we should produce diverse food. It's not only staple, but diverse in terms of balanced diet, balanced nutrient requirement, and so on. And after this, value chain. Value chain is just, fair, transparent, and so on. The food safety. Food safety, it's not only the issues about G20s. I think it's all universals. Food safety sometimes become a problem in international trade. Foods from developing countries, including from India and Indonesia, sometimes were rejected in the global market because we cannot ensure the food safety standards, sustainability standard, and so on. India and Indonesia are producing coffee. Our coffee sometimes were accused of some toxin. I forget the name, aflatoxin and octatoxin, thing like that, which is also the problem of our post-harvest handling. All of thing about that, I don't know what to go through. The diversity of G20, I think you understand very well that at least 2 countries, I put in yellow, 2 countries, the income per capita is less than 4,000 US dollar per capita, which is quite small. We are in the big elephants of other 19 countries, other sovereign countries, including the EU, why become 20. The issues probably very diverse. Then we are not only exporting food to the world, but we are also importing food from the rest of the world, especially from other countries. I tried to go through the data for the G20s. We are little tiny here. China, Australia, and US is also the one that have 405 million hectares of land. Indonesia is very small, only 57 million of land, which is very small. The trade balance. Look at that. The balance. The red one is import. The other one is export. Brazil is really exporting. Red one is export. Brazil is exporting countries. Australia is food, agricultural products exporting. Argentina as well, especially soybean and so on. US is about the same. UK, there are some importing, of course. Germany, some importing. This is about the balance. Oops. Now the FSN. There are 3 objectives of FSN in G20s. One is responsible investment in food system. Then the issues, I think we invite later for the discussion, how to invest in responsible food system in Indonesia. The big point is partnership with private sectors. Whether it's in contract farming, whether share ownership and so on. The second is R&D, research and development. Especially, we should work together. It's the theme of this conference, according to Dr. Katuria, to put together, to translate cooperation into consensus. Then investment in research and development is very important. Access to financial services and risk management, financial risk management. I will bring later the issues of environmental risk management. Trade, and the 5th is really tenure security, predictable regulation, and so on. The second objective of FSN is income and quality employment in food system. What we have to put together? Small farmers sometimes do not receive just and fair price from the pricing system, from the market structure. If we could improve the institutional arrangement, like Ashok earlier mentioned, we watch closely. We have good incentive systems. Small farmers could have a fair and just price in the farm gate price. But the requirement, you have to meet the quality. It's been required by supermarket. Later, please confirm that if maybe I'm telling not right. Transition from informal economy to formal economy to involve the women's group. Informality sometimes is useful as a cushion, but we have to move forward if we want to move into the whole development process to formality. The number 4, improving the productive capacity for the poor, especially we should encourage social protection policies. Most of our small farmers, I believe in India and Indonesia as well, have less than half hectares of farm size for some products. Humanitarian intervention, invest in education, retain productive assets, and so on. The third one is productivity sustainably, which is we have to care about the environment. There we go. We have to establish good resilience and so on. So this kind of cooperation and consensus, we could translate it into action. Then I open up the annual publication by Economic Intelligence Units, which is very famous FSI, Global Food Security Index. I put together some numbers in terms of 2017 status. 2018 is not yet there. Look at the highest ranking among G20s, US and UK. Indonesia is 69, India is 74, a little bit increased, but it's not that much. China 45, Brazil 38, all developing countries below 40 at least. If you understand correctly, food security is not only about production, but food access and utilization. So this is why they put together. The ranking of affordability, availability, safety, and resilience. How the value chain, the whole food system is resilient if there is some problem, especially environmental problem, which I going a little bit story about Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, food system is really, really dependent on our agricultural production system. The data from Indonesia, our growth is not bad at all. 3.8% per year is not bad in terms of growth. Our economy grows about 5%. But why there's the problem of food security there? Why poverty? Well, our poverty is still already one digit, 9.8% anyway. But the problem of malnutrition is still there, inequality is still there. The thing we have to translate our consensus into action. There we go. From cooperation, consensus, action. I think the thing that we should put together as a big agenda for G20. Especially if we look in particular about farmers. Even though, this is an Indonesian case anyway, GDP per capita increased from 2011 to 2016, but TOT is farm's term of trade. Term of trade is the index the farmers receive compared with the farmers' expenses. It's about the same. It means there is no such significant increase in farmers' welfare. So the issues of quality of growth, the thing we have discussed for so long, I think still there. We cannot solve yet under the existing development strategies. Is it about investment? Probably. Earlier we mentioned about investment. Indonesian government really pushed forward after the economic crisis, since Asian crisis here. We put investment in infrastructure. Earlier we have discussion, but not yet the discussion of irrigation infrastructure. I think we have to contribute a lot how to modernize our irrigation systems. Not only relying on the gravity irrigation system, but we have to move forward into the technology. Yesterday we moved up into 4.0, some kind of thing, but the precision agriculture in India and Indonesia, I think is not that advanced, especially among small farmers. I think that's the thing we should translate the consensus into agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, I put an example of Indonesia. Okay, we have to move forward. This is the work, this is my recent works with Mark Rosegren in terms of precision agriculture. I think we have to move forward into genetics, precision farming. I know it's still controversial about biotech, but information technology, we believe could improve the productivity, farm income, food security in general. See, for example, this time we are really trying to move forward to labor-saving technology. probably the question, okay, where does the labor force have to go? This is the case of industry and service sector have to move forward. We cannot rely on agricultural development only from agriculture, but we have to rely on the industry and service sector. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Key issues of R&D. If you compare about the circle of R&D, of course, US is the largest. Then China, Japan, Germany. Where's Indonesia and India? I cannot find. India is quite big, 4.48. Indonesia is quite small, only 2.1 billion. So there's nothing magic in sustainable food future. If we're not rely on research and development, you cannot do anything. Let alone see the comparison of Indonesia and China, Malaysia. We are still very small. I think that's the thing G20 could play important role for R&D. As mentioned earlier, we have triple burdens. Triple burden means malnutrition, obesity, and children's obesity, stunting is actually, we're working hard on that. That's why I bring together the issues of broad environmental risk. Our forest has been lost. You can see the changing color here. Then the thing we have to really put a serious agenda on managing environmental risks, including the climate change, of course. But I put some dimension from coping mechanism, institutional factors, economic linkages, temporal attributes, spatial attribute, and policy related. That's the thing I propose that we put more attention translating consensus into action anyway. For example, I visited Western India Ghat hotspot, biodiversity hotspot. Last time, our farmers have moved forward to put shade tree in the coffee sector, which is contribute both not only to protection, environmental protection, environmental conservation, but to farmers' income. If we put the trees could have additional income, such as fruit trees, jackfruit, and so on. And more importantly, it comply with environmental governance status. Okay, I've finished it. Ladies and gentlemen, irrigation I mentioned earlier. This is, I just want to show a picture. This is very serious. From this water, they become no water at all. Why? Social cooperation is very important. I think we should include community participation in this movement. You cannot work alone. Okay, this very, ladies and gentlemen, this picture is just recent last week case in Indonesia of recent tsunami. I just want to show you some picture. Look at that, just simply gone, simply gone. The thing that we cannot expect about the natural disasters about liquefaction. Liquefaction is just simply all thing. This look simply gone. It's going into inside the earth, which is you cannot even predict. Ladies and gentlemen, I propose we use SDGs as the bridge from consensus to action. Okay, G20 is not the way that we do. I mean, there is no big voice, but this is really important bridge. You can go through with my slide to achieve the objective. I go into my last slide, which is we have to translate action. Consensus into policy and involving stakeholders cooperation and community participation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Rustan. This was really a treat, from a global picture to Indonesian. And, we really feel on the tsunami question very, very, challenging for you, but our sympathies and our support to the people of Indonesia in this hour particularly. One or two things that I want to highlight before Fred takes over. If I'm correct, Indonesia's agriculture growth during the last 7-8 years that you showed was always about 70% or even more than the overall GDP growth. That's a news to the Indians because we have been struggling to get even half of the GDP growth in agriculture, which is a challenge, and that's something remarkable. Second, that the agriculture R&D investments that some of the players in the G20 are making, this is where the potential for sustainable research through technologies, whether it is genetics or environmental concerns, how best to handle those, I think that is a very critical point that we must note because we are under-investing in many countries, especially in India, as far as the agri R&D is concerned. And therefore, sustainable agriculture future remains a challenge. Fred, we look forward to your value chains and what the big private players can do in the world. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the time here today. I appreciate being on the panel. And I love the actual transition from the last session into this session. Professor Morris talked about the role of private companies, and their role is making a profit and being a good business, and that's the role that they fill in society. I think one of the things that I would call out in the lead-in to this actual session is that we feel at Walmart that the best way that we're going to be able to perform that role, the best way that we're going to be a profitable business, sustainable in terms of economically, sustainable in terms of being around for the long run, is actually being a good partner in the value chain. We want to serve our customers well. We want to provide good products that they can afford. We don't want them to have to choose between things that they can afford and things that are good for either themselves or for the environment. And so it makes sense for us to get involved in our value chain. It makes sense for us to work with other key partners, whether it's NGOs, suppliers, other stakeholders, to really understand the issues, to make sure that we have surety of supply, that we have it at a reasonable cost, and that we can then provide that to customers for the things that they want to buy. And that's a view that's been in place at Walmart for a long time, but our leadership is really committed to that, and they talk about it. They talk about it in our annual report. They talk about it in our global responsibility report. You can see a quote here from our current CEO that's from our global responsibility report. It's really a view that comes top down and is built from the inside out. So the associates day to day that are a part of the company, and whether they work in a store, a club, a distribution center, whether they're a buyer and buying these products, a sourcing manager, they all look at these types of topics as important key features of how to be the best company we can be so that we can be around for our suppliers and we can be around for our customers. So we're going to look at it from a few different perspectives. We're going to look at it and say that, okay, we do want to provide safe, affordable food. We want the products on the shelves that the customers are looking for. In order to be able to do that, we need to be able to treat our associates right, have good jobs so we can attract good talent. We need to be a good partner with our suppliers. We need to be able to have them be viable long-term, because if they're viable and sustainable, then we're going to, again, get that surety of supply that we're looking for.